The rain fell like a punishment that night, and Danielle Brooks had no idea she was about to pass the most dangerous test of her life. She pushed through the back door of Harbor Blue Diner, her feet screaming after 12 straight hours on cracked tile floors. Her uniform reeked of grease and burnt coffee. Her phone buzzed again, another reminder that rent was already 9 days late. She ignored it. The rain hit her face like tiny needles, cold, relentless, the kind of downpour that made Chicago feel like it wanted you gone. Danielle pulled her thin hoodie tighter and started walking toward the bus stop 3 blocks away. That's when she saw her. An elderly woman stood near the curb, gray coat soaked through, one hand gripping a wooden cane, the other trembling against the wind. Cars rushed past, headlights cut through the rain like blades. Nobody slowed down. Nobody even looked. Danielle's legs kept moving. She was exhausted. She was broke. Marcus was home alone waiting for dinner she couldn't afford to buy. Every instinct told her to keep walking. But something made her stop. The woman's eyes. They weren't helpless. They weren't confused. They were searching, like she was waiting for someone who was never going to come. "Ma'am?" Danielle called out over the rain. "Are you okay?" The woman turned, startled. Up close, Danielle noticed her accent, Korean. Soft but clear. "I am fine," she said quickly. Too quickly. "The rain is stronger than I expected." Danielle looked around. The sidewalk was slick, the wind was picking up. This woman had no business standing out here alone. "Let me help you," Danielle said. The woman studied her for a long moment, like she was weighing something far heavier than the rain. Then she nodded. "My name is Mrs. Hahn." Danielle offered her arm. "I'm Danielle." They moved slowly, step by step, until they reached the diner's awning. Danielle dug into her bag, pulled out a clean napkin, and gently wiped the rain from the woman's face. "Come inside," Danielle said. "Just for a few minutes. Warm up." The diner was nearly empty, chairs stacked, lights low. Danielle poured her a cup of hot tea, on the house, even though her manager hated that. Mrs. Hahn wrapped her hands around the cup, her eyes closed as warmth spread through her fingers. "You didn't have to do this," she said quietly. I shrugged. Someone should. Mrs. Hahn looked at her then, really looked, at the worn shoes, the tired eyes, the quiet strength underneath. "Kindness," the woman said softly, "is expensive these days." Danielle smiled. "So is being cruel." When Mrs. Hahn finally stood to leave, she reached into her bag. "No," Danielle said quickly, "I'm not taking money." Mrs. Hahn paused, then slowly withdrew her hand. Then she said, "Thank you." At the door, she turned one last time. "You have a good heart, Danielle. Protect it." Danielle watched her disappear into the rain. She didn't notice the black sedan idling 3 blocks away. She didn't see the man in the back seat watching through tinted glass. And she didn't know that the woman she just helped wasn't lost at all. She was exactly where she was supposed to be. Kindness can be expensive, but what Danielle didn't know yet was just how high the price would climb. If you've ever helped a stranger without expecting anything back, comment heart below. And if you're not subscribed yet, ask yourself this. What if nobody told you what happens next? What if you never found out who was in that black sedan? Subscribe now. Don't be the one who walks away right before everything changes. The lunch rush came and went. Danielle kept her head down, poured coffee, wiped tables, avoided Ron's glare. By 2 o'clock, she was running on empty. By 5, she was counting the minutes until her shift ended. And then, just before the dinner rush, the front door opened. The diner went silent. Every head turned. And Danielle felt something shift in the air, like the moment before lightning strikes. A group of men stood in the doorway. Sharp suits, cold eyes, movements too controlled to be casual. And at the center, a tall figure with a face that revealed nothing. He wasn't looking at Ron. He wasn't looking at the menu. He was looking directly at her. 5 men walked in like they owned the building. Maybe they did. Sharp suits, polished shoes, eyes that scanned the room like predators sizing up prey. Customers froze mid-bite. Forks hung in the air. Conversations died. But Danielle couldn't look away from the man in the center. Tall, early 30s, face carved from stone. His posture was relaxed, but the kind of relaxed that felt dangerous, like a lion resting before a kill. Ron rushed forward, wiping his hands on his apron. Nervous smiles stretched too wide. "Good evening, gentlemen. Can I help you with something?" The man didn't even glance at him. His eyes found Danielle and stayed there. For half a second, something flickered across his expression. Recognition. Danielle's heart slammed against her ribs. "You helped my mother last night," he said. His voice was calm, controlled, the kind of voice that didn't need to be loud to command a room. The diner went completely still. Danielle's throat tightened. I didn't know she was—" "You didn't," he said quietly. "That's why it matters." Ron's smile vanished. He looked between Danielle and the stranger, trying to calculate what he'd stumbled into. The man finally turned to face Ron. "You're the manager here." It wasn't a question. Ron nodded quickly. "Yes, sir, Ron Keller. Whatever you need, I'm happy to—" "I heard you threatened to fire her this morning." Ron's face went pale. It was a misunderstanding, a small issue with inventory, and—" The man stepped closer. Ron stopped talking. "Let me be clear," the stranger said. His voice never rose. It didn't need to. "She keeps her job. Her hours increase. Her wages adjust." Ron swallowed hard. Or what?" The man tilted his head slightly, almost amused. "Or this building gets sold by the end of the week, and you explain to your creditors why you're suddenly unemployed." Silence. Then a nod. Quick. Desperate. Pathetic. The stranger turned back to Danielle. "Walk with me." A stranger just saved her job with a single sentence. But nothing in this world comes free, especially not from a man like him. If you've ever wished someone powerful would stand up for you when nobody else would, comment "wish" below. And if you're still not subscribed, think about this. Danielle's entire life is about to change. Do you really want to miss why he was watching her before his mother ever stood in the rain? Subscribe now. The answer will haunt you. Outside, the rain had stopped. The streets glistened under flickering streetlights. Danielle hugged herself against the cold. Her mind raced with questions she didn't know how to ask. "My mother doesn't leave the house alone," he said, breaking the silence. "Not anymore. Not for years." Danielle frowned. "Then why was she—" He said, slowly, "I wanted to know what kind of world I'm protecting." She stopped walking, stared at him. "So I was a test? For you?" He shook his head. "No, for me." He studied her the way his mother had, like he was reading something written beneath her skin. "You could have walked past. You didn't." Danielle crossed her arms. "I didn't do it for you." A pause. Then the smallest smile, barely there, gone before she could be sure she'd seen it. "Good," he said. "That's what scares me." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a card. No title, no logo, just a name and a number. Han Jun-soo. "If anyone ever threatens your dignity again, you call." He turned and walked toward the black sedan waiting at the curb. Danielle watched him go. He never thanked her, and somehow that made her more curious than grateful, because the question that kept her awake that night wasn't what he'd done for her. It was why he'd been watching her long before his mother ever stood in the rain. She thought the danger was behind her. She thought saving an old woman in a rainstorm was the end of the story. But Han Jun-soo hadn't come to say thank you. He'd come to collect. And Danielle was about to learn that kindness had a price she never agreed to pay. 1 week later, Danielle's life felt different. Not better, just watched. Ron avoided her like she carried a disease. He didn't bark orders anymore, didn't make comments about her uniform or her attitude. He barely looked at her at all. Coworkers whispered when she walked past. Tips appeared on tables she hadn't even served, and every night when she left the diner, she felt eyes on her back. She told herself it was paranoia, but the card in her drawer said otherwise. Han Jun-soo. She hadn't called, hadn't even thought about it. Okay, that was a lie. She thought about it constantly. About him, about that voice, about the way he looked at her like he already knew things she hadn't figured out yet. She was still thinking about it when the woman walked in. Elegant, cold, Korean, mid-30s with sharp cheekbones and sharper eyes. She moved through the diner like everyone else was furniture. She stopped directly in front of Danielle. "Miss Brooks." Not a question. "Yeah?" Danielle kept her voice steady. "Can I help you?" "My name is Yoon Mi Ray. I work with Mr. Han." Danielle's stomach tightened. "Okay." Mi Ray placed an ivory envelope on the counter. Thick paper, gold seal. "Mrs. Han would like to thank you properly. She's inviting you to dinner at the family estate." Danielle stared at the envelope like it might bite. "I didn't help her for a reward." Mi Ray smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "That's exactly why she wants to see you again." An invitation to a mansion from one of the most powerful families in the city. Danielle didn't ask for this. She just gave an old woman tea in a rainstorm. But now she's being pulled into a world she doesn't understand. Would you go, or would you walk away while you still could? Comment "go" or "run" below. And if you're still not subscribed, think about this. Danielle's entire life is about to change. Do you really want to miss why he was watching her before his mother ever stood in the rain? Subscribe now. The answer will haunt you. That night, Danielle sat at the kitchen table staring at the envelope. Marcus walked in, grabbed a soda from the fridge, and froze. "What's that?" "Nothing." He raised an eyebrow. "Doesn't look like nothing. Looks expensive." "It's just an invitation from someone I helped." Marcus leaned against the counter, 16 years old, but already too observant for his own good. "This have anything to do with those Korean guys in suits my friend Terrell saw at the diner?" Danielle looked up. "Terrell needs to mind his business." "Terrell said they looked like bodyguards, or worse." "It's nothing, Marcus. Drop it." He held her gaze for a long moment, then shrugged and walked toward his room. "Whatever you say, Danny. Just be careful, okay? We only got each other." The door closed behind him. Danielle looked back at the envelope. She should throw it away. Forget the old woman, forget the man with the cold eyes and the calm voice. Go back to her normal life. But her normal life was cracked floors and lake rent and a brother she couldn't afford to fail. And somewhere deep down, she wanted answers. Why her? Why was he watching before his mother ever stood in that rain? She opened the envelope. Friday, 7 p.m., an address in the Gold Coast she couldn't even pronounce. Danielle made her decision. Not for the reward, for the truth. She told herself she was walking into that mansion for answers. But she didn't realize the Han family wasn't looking for gratitude. They were looking for something far more valuable. And Danielle was already being measured for a role she never auditioned for. The Han estate didn't look like a house. It looked like a fortress dressed in silk. Iron gates, stone walls, security cameras hidden in the trees like mechanical eyes. Danielle stepped out of the black car they'd sent for her and felt her chest tighten. She didn't belong here. Everything about this place screamed money, power, generations of control. And she was a waitress from the South Side with $37 in her checking account. Yeon Mi-rae appeared at the entrance. Same cold smile, same sharp eyes. "Miss Brooks, Mrs. Han is expecting you." Danielle followed her through marble hallways lined with artwork that probably cost more than her entire apartment building. Her sneakers squeaked against the polished floors. She felt small, out of place, like a stain someone forgot to clean. But she kept walking. because she didn't come here for comfort. She came for answers. Mrs. Han waited in a private dining room. Warm lighting, fresh flowers, a table set for two. No Jun Seo. Danielle noticed his absence immediately, felt it like a missing piece in a puzzle she couldn't see. Mrs. Han rose slowly, her face breaking into a gentle smile. Danielle, thank you for coming. She took Danielle's hands in hers. Soft, warm, sincere. Not what Danielle expected. Please, Mrs. Han said, sit, eat, let me thank you properly. The food was incredible. Dishes Danielle couldn't name, flavors she'd never tasted. But the conversation was what surprised her. Mrs. Han didn't talk about money, didn't talk about power or status. She asked about Danielle's life, about her mother, about raising Marcus alone, about the dreams she'd buried when the bills started piling up. I wanted to be a nurse, Danielle heard herself say, before everything fell apart. Mrs. Han nodded slowly. And now? Now I just want to keep my brother safe, get him through school, give him a shot I never had. Mrs. Han's eyes softened. You carry a heavy load for someone so young. Danielle shrugged. Someone has to. They sat in silence for a moment, comfortable, familiar, like two women who understood loss without needing to explain it. Then, Mrs. Han said something that changed everything. My son doesn't trust easily, but he noticed you months ago. Danielle froze. Months? Months? He'd been watching her months before his mother ever stood in that rain. This wasn't chance. This wasn't fate. This was planned. If that revelation sent a chill down your spine, you're not alone. Comment months if you didn't see that coming. And if you're still not subscribed, think about this. Why would a powerful man like Han Jun-seo spend months watching a waitress? What does he want from her? Subscribe now, because what Mrs. Han says next will shatter everything Danielle believed. Why? Danielle's voice came out sharper than she intended. Why was he watching me? Mrs. Han hesitated, chose her words carefully. Han Jun-seo was tracking someone dangerous, someone who owes our family a great debt. She paused. That person is connected to your past. Danielle's blood ran cold. What are you talking about? I don't know anyone like that. Mrs. Han opened her mouth to answer, but the door swung open. Han Jun-seo stood in the doorway, jaw tight, eyes blazing. He looked at his mother, then at Danielle. That's enough, he said. Mrs. Han rose. Jun-seo, I said enough. He crossed the room and took his mother's arm, guided her toward the door. Danielle caught fragments of their hushed argument. She wasn't supposed to know yet. She deserves the truth. Not like this. Then Jun-seo turned back, his eyes locked onto Danielle. Cold, guarded, different from before. You should have stayed away, he said quietly. The door closed behind them, and Danielle sat alone in that beautiful room, surrounded by food she could no longer taste. Her hands trembled. Connected to your past. What past? Her mother was gone. Her father had never been in the picture. She had no one. So why did it feel like someone had just ripped open a wound she didn't know existed? She came for answers. Instead, she discovered she was already part of a story that started long before that rainy night. A story the Han family had been writing around her for months. And now she knew too much to walk away, but not enough to protect herself from what was coming. Danielle didn't leave. She should have. Every instinct screamed at her to walk out those gates and never look back. But she couldn't. Not after what Mrs. Han said. Connected to your past. She found Jun-seo in the hallway, grabbed his arm before he could disappear. You don't get to do that, she said. "You don't get to dangle something like that and then shut the door." He looked down at her hand on his sleeve, then up at her face. "Let go." "No." His jaw tightened. "You don't know what you're asking for." "Then tell me, because I'm not leaving until you do." Silence stretched between them. Thick. Heavy. Then he exhaled slowly. "Fine, but you won't thank me for this." He led her to a private study. Dark wood, leather chairs, shelves lined with books that looked older than the building. Junso closed the door. "Your mother," he said. "How did she die?" Danielle frowned. "Cancer, 2 years ago." "That's what you were told." Her stomach dropped. "What does that mean?" He walked to the window, stared out at the city lights below. "Your mother worked as a bookkeeper 20 years ago, before you were born." Danielle shook her head. "She worked at a grocery store, a laundromat. She never—" "Before that," he turned to face her, "she worked for a man named Vincent Cole." The name meant nothing to her, but the look in Junso's eyes told her it should. Vincent Cole was a money launderer. He moved cash for crime families across 3 states, including rivals of mine. Danielle's legs felt weak. My mother wouldn't. She didn't know. Not at first. By the time she figured out what he really was, she was already too deep. He paused, let the weight of it settle. When Vincent's operation started collapsing, he silenced anyone who could testify. Accountants, bookkeepers, anyone with records. Danielle's voice cracked. "You're saying he killed them?" "I'm saying your mother was diagnosed with cancer, but she was also being poisoned, slowly, over months. Her mother didn't just die. She was murdered. By a man Danielle never knew existed. If this revelation broke something inside you, you're feeling exactly what Danielle felt in that moment. Comment broken if you didn't see this coming. And if you're not subscribed yet, ask yourself, do you really want to walk away now before you find out who Vincent Cole really is? Before you learn why the Han family has been watching her all along? Subscribe, because the next truth will destroy her. "You're lying," Danielle whispered, but her voice had no strength. Junso shook his head slowly. "I wish I was." He pulled a file from the desk drawer, dropped it in front of her. Photos, documents, medical records. Her mother's face stared back at her from a surveillance photo dated 15 years ago. Vincent Cole disappeared 3 years ago, took $40 million of stolen money with him. Every family he betrayed has been hunting him since. Danielle couldn't breathe. "Why are you telling me this?" He met her eyes. "Because Vincent Cole is your biological father." The room tilted. "No!" She stepped back. "No, my mother she never talked about—" "He abandoned her before you were born. She never spoke his name because she was terrified he'd come back." Danielle grabbed the edge of the desk, steadied herself. "You've been watching me because of him." It wasn't a question. Junso nodded. "Vincent has no family left, no friends, no allies. Just one person in this world he might still care about." He paused. "You." Danielle felt tears burn her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "So I'm bait." He didn't deny it. "You didn't save my job because I helped your mother. You saved it because you need me." Still nothing. She laughed, bitter, hollow. And here I thought kindness actually meant something. She turned and walked out of the study, out of the mansion, into the cold night air. Behind her, Junso watched from the window. He didn't follow. Her mother didn't just die. She was murdered by a ghost, and that ghost shared Danielle's blood. Now she understood why the mafia boss had saved her job. He didn't see her as a person to protect. He saw her as a trap waiting to be sprung. And the man who killed her mother was still out there, watching, waiting, wondering when his daughter would finally lead them straight to him. Danielle didn't sleep that night. She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at a photo of her mother. Soft smile, tired eyes, hands that worked double shifts just to keep food on the table. This woman had secrets. Secrets she carried to her grave. And now those secrets were crawling out of the dirt, demanding answers Danielle wasn't ready to give. The next morning, Marcus found her in the kitchen. Coffee cold, eyes red. "Danny?" He stood in the doorway, backpack over one shoulder. "You okay?" She forced a smile. "Yeah, just didn't sleep well." He didn't believe her. She could see it in his face. But he didn't push. "I'm heading to school," he said. "You need anything?" She shook her head. "Just get good grades, make me proud." He grinned. "Always do." The door closed behind him, and Danielle let the mask fall. By noon, Junseo's car was parked outside her building. She wasn't surprised. Yoon Mi-rae stood by the passenger door. Same cold expression, same sharp suit. "Mr. Han would like to speak with you." "I bet he would." "It's not a request, Miss Brooks." Danielle stared at her for a long moment, then grabbed her jacket and climbed into the car. He was waiting at a warehouse by the river. Alone this time. No bodyguards, no backup, just him and the gray water stretching toward the horizon. Danielle stepped out of the car, walked toward him with her arms crossed. "You've got 5 minutes," she said. Junseo turned. His face was unreadable, but something in his eyes looked almost tired. "I'm offering you a choice." "A choice?" She laughed bitterly. "You've been manipulating me since the moment we met." "I've been protecting you." "From what? The truth?" He stepped closer. "From a man who would kill you without hesitation if he thought you were a threat." Danielle's jaw tightened. "And what do you want me to do about it? Lead him to him like a good little lamb?" "I want you to help me find him. On your terms." She blinked. What? He wasn't asking her to be bait anymore. He was asking her to be a weapon. Her own father murdered her mother, left her with nothing, vanished like smoke. And now she had a chance to make him pay. Would you take it? Or would you walk away and let him live free? Comment justice if you'd fight. Comment walk away if you'd let it go. And if you're not subscribed, think about this. Danielle is about to make a decision that will change everything. Do you really want to miss what she chooses? Subscribe now. The hunt is about to begin. Junseo reached into his jacket, pulled out a folder. Vincent Pole has been hiding for 3 years. No one can find him. But if his only daughter suddenly starts looking for him, he might come out of the shadows, Danielle finished. Yes. She stared at the folder, at the face of the man who destroyed her family. What's in it for me? Justice for your mother. And, he paused, your brother, Marcus. Full scholarship to any university he wants. Protection, a future beyond the South Side. Her heart clenched. He knew exactly where to hit. If I say no, then you walk away, and Vincent Cole stays free forever. Silence. The wind off the river cut through her jacket. Danielle looked at the photo of Vincent Cole, then back at Junseo. I'll do it, she said quietly, but on my terms. Nobody controls me, and if you lie to me even once, I'm gone. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. You are more dangerous than you know, Danielle Brooks. She didn't smile. Good. Maybe it's time someone else felt afraid. She agreed to hunt her own father, not because Junseo asked, because her mother deserved justice. But Danielle had already decided something the mafia boss didn't count on. She wasn't just his weapon anymore. She was writing her own ending. And if Han Junseo thought he could control her, he was about to learn how wrong he was. 3 weeks passed, and Danielle became someone she didn't recognize. She learned to read people, to spot danger in a glance, to hear lies hidden inside polite words. Junseo trained him himself, not with weapons, with awareness. Your father survived this long because he sees threats before they arrive, he told her. You need to think like him to find him. She hated that advice. But she used it anyway. They spent hours together, more than necessary, reviewing files, mapping connections, tracing the ghost of Vincent Cole through shell companies and dead-end leads. Somewhere along the way, something shifted. Late nights turned into shared silences. Professional distance turned into something harder to name. One evening, Jonso told her about his father. He built this empire, he said quietly, then died protecting it, left me with a crown I never wanted. Danielle studied his face, saw the weight behind his eyes. Why didn't you walk away? Because someone has to protect what matters, he looked at her, even when it costs everything. She didn't respond, but she understood. More than she wanted to admit. Mrs. Han noticed the change. She found Danielle alone in the garden one afternoon. You're the first person my son has trusted in years, she said softly. Don't let him push you away. Danielle shook her head. I'm not here for him. I'm here for my mother. Mrs. Han smiled gently. Maybe, but hearts don't follow plans, child. They follow truth. The trap was simple. Danielle would record a video message, emotional, raw, a daughter searching for the father who abandoned her. They'd leak it through underground channels Vincent was known to monitor, and then they'd wait. Danielle sat in front of the camera, hands trembling. The words felt like glass in her throat. My name is Danielle Brooks. I'm looking for my father, Vincent Cole. She paused, swallowed hard. I know you left. I know what happened to my mother, but I need answers. I deserve that much. Tears she didn't plan for spilled down her cheeks. Please, if you ever cared about her, about me, meet me. Just once. That's all I'm asking. The recording ended. Jonso watched from the doorway, his expression unreadable. That was convincing, he said quietly. Danielle wiped her face. It wasn't acting. She'd just begged a murderer to meet her. Her own father, the man who poisoned her mother, the man who vanished with blood money and left them with nothing. And now she's waiting for him to respond. Would you have the courage to face someone who destroyed your family? Comment courage if you would. Comment never if you couldn't. And if you're not subscribed, ask yourself this. What happens when Vincent Cole finally answers? Will he come to reunite or to silence her forever? Subscribe now, because the betrayal that's coming will break everything. Days passed. Nothing. Then a week. Still silence. Danielle started to wonder if he'd ever take the bait. Then, on day 12, a message arrived. Encrypted. Untraceable. 3 words. I'll be there. A location, a time, 48 hours away. Jonso mobilized his team, security plans, backup routes, contingency after contingency. Everything was falling into place. Until the night before the meeting. Danielle couldn't sleep. Something felt wrong, a whisper in her gut she couldn't ignore. She went to find Jonso, but she found something else instead. Mireille's office, door ajar, light spilling into the hallway. Voices inside. Danielle pressed herself against the wall. Listened. Mireille's voice, cold, familiar. The girl recorded the message. He's coming. A pause. Then another voice, distorted, speaking through a phone. Good. Make sure the Hans don't survive the meeting. I'll handle Danielle myself. Danielle's blood turned to ice. Mireille laughed softly. After 10 years of playing loyal soldier, I'm finally free. The call ended. Danielle couldn't breathe. Mireille had betrayed them. She'd been feeding information to Vincent Cole the entire time. And now, the trap wasn't for Vincent. It was for them. The trap was never for her father. It was for the Hahn family. And the woman Joan so trusted most had been working against him from the beginning. Vincent Cole wasn't coming to meet his daughter. He was coming to destroy everyone she'd started to care about. Mrs. Hahn, less than 24 hours to live, unless Danielle did the unthinkable. Danielle ran, through the darkened hallways, past the security cameras, her heart pounding so loud she could barely think. She had to find Jonso. He was in the study, alone, reviewing documents for tomorrow's meeting. She burst through the door without knocking. "Mireille, I heard her. She's working with Vincent." Jonso looked up, frowned. "What are you talking about?" "I heard her, on a call. She's been feeding information the entire time. The meeting tomorrow, it's not a trap for him, it's for you." He stood slowly. "That's impossible. Mireille has been with me for 10 years. I know what I heard. You're mistaken. I'm not." Danielle grabbed her phone, pulled up the recording she'd made through the cracked door. Mireille's voice filled the room. "Make sure the Hans don't survive the meeting. I'll handle Danielle myself." Silence. Junso's face didn't change, but something behind his eyes cracked. 10 years of trust, shattered in 15 seconds. He turned away, stared out the window. "Get my mother," he said quietly. "We move her tonight." The next hour was chaos. Guards mobilized, cars prepared, Mrs. Hahn awoken from sleep and rushed toward a safe house outside the city. But Danielle knew it wasn't enough. Vincent was coming, and he knew their every move. She found Junso in the garage, loading weapons into a black SUV. "Let me go to him," she said. He stopped. "Absolutely not." "He's my father. That's the one thing that might make him hesitate. Or the one thing that gets you killed." "He won't kill me. Not immediately. He'll want to talk, to explain, to justify." Junso shook his head. "You don't know him. Neither do you, but I'm the only card we have left." She's offering herself as bait, again. Not because anyone asked, because it's the only way to save the people she's grown to care about. Her mother was murdered by this man, and now Danielle is walking straight toward him. Would you risk your life for people you barely knew 3 weeks ago? Comment brave if you would. Comment never if you couldn't. And if you're not subscribed, think about this. What happens when a daughter finally faces the father who destroyed her family? Will he see her as blood or as a threat to eliminate? Subscribe now, because what Vincent reveals will change everything. They argued for 20 minutes. Junso refused, then refused again, but Danielle didn't back down. Finally, he stopped, looked at her with something she hadn't seen before. Fear. Not for himself, for her. "If you go," he said slowly, "I can't protect you." "I'm not asking you to." "Danielle, you told me I was more dangerous than I knew." She stepped closer. "Let me prove it." He held her gaze, searched for something, maybe a reason to say no. He didn't find one. "I stopped seeing you as bait months ago," he said quietly. "I need you to know that." She felt the weight of those words settle in her chest. Not a confession, but close enough. "Then trust me," she said. "I'm not walking into that church to die. I'm walking in to end this." The abandoned church sat on the south side, crumbling brick, shattered windows, a place forgotten by everyone except ghosts. Danielle walked in alone. No weapons, no backup. Just her. Footsteps echoed in the empty nave. And then she saw him. Vincent Cole. Older than his photos, gray hair, hard eyes, a face that looked like hers in ways she hated. He stood at the altar, watching her approach. "You came." His voice was rough, tired. "You killed my mother." He flinched. Just barely. "I loved her mother." "Then why is she dead?" He shook his head slowly. "I didn't poison her, Danielle." "Liar!" "I'm many things, but I never touched her." He stepped closer, his eyes filled with something that looked almost like pain. "The poison came from someone else, someone who wanted me and the Hans to destroy each other." Danielle's blood went cold. "What are you talking about?" Vincent's voice dropped to a whisper. "The real enemy was never me. It's inside that mansion, standing next to the man you think you can trust." Vincent Cole didn't kill her mother. The poison came from someone closer, someone who wanted the Hans and Vincent to tear each other apart. And Danielle suddenly realized the danger wasn't in that church. It was back at the mansion, standing next to the man she'd started to trust. Danielle's mind raced as Vincent's words echoed through the empty church. The real enemy is inside that mansion. "Who?" she demanded. "Who killed my mother?" Vincent's jaw tightened. "Han Myung-so, Junso's uncle." The name hit her like a fist. "He's been playing both sides for years, feeding me information, framing me for things I didn't do. He wanted the empire, and he didn't care who died to get it." Danielle shook her head. "Why should I believe you?" "Because I have proof." He pulled a flash drive from his pocket. "Everything. Bank transfers, communications, the order to poison your mother." He held it out. "I'm not a good man, Danielle. I've done terrible things, but I didn't kill her. I loved her too much to ever hurt her." Tears burned her eyes, but she didn't reach for the drive. "Then why did you run?" "Because Myung-so made sure every family in the country wanted me dead. If I stayed, you and your mother would have been targets too." His voice cracked. "Leaving was the only way to keep you safe, and I've regretted it every single day." Danielle grabbed the flash drive. No time for forgiveness, no time for closure. Mrs. Han was still in danger. "Come with me," she said. Vincent hesitated. "The Hans will kill me on sight." "Not if you help me save them first." The man who abandoned her, the man she thought murdered her mother, now he's her only ally. Danielle is about to trust the ghost who destroyed her family to save the family she barely knows. Would you give a monster a second chance if it meant saving innocent lives? Comment trust if you would. Comment never if you couldn't. And if you're not subscribed, ask yourself, what happens when Danielle walks back into that mansion with Vincent Cole at her side? Will Jun-seo see an ally or a betrayal? Subscribe now. The final confrontation will leave you breathless. They drove through the night. Danielle called Jun-seo. No answer. Called again. Nothing. Her chest tightened. Please be alive. The mansion gates were open when they arrived, security absent, lights flickering. Something was very wrong. Danielle ran inside. Vincent followed. They found them in the main hall. Myung-soo stood at the center, gray hair, cold smile, a gun pressed against Mrs. Han's temple. Jun-seo knelt on the floor, hands bound, blood dripping from a cut above his eye. 4 of Myung-soo's men surrounded them. "Ah," Myung-soo said calmly, "the prodigal daughter returns, and she brought a gift." His eyes landed on Vincent. "Hello, old friend. I wondered when you'd finally show your face." Vincent stepped forward. "Let them go, Myung-soo. This is between us." "No, this is between me and what I'm owed." Myung-soo pressed the gun harder against Mrs. Han's head. I built this family. I protected it while my brother played king, and when he died, they gave the crown to his son instead of me." He laughed bitterly. "A boy running an empire while I stood in the shadows like a servant." Junseo's voice was steady despite the blood. "You could have walked away." "Walk away from what's mine?" Myung-soo shook his head. "Never." Danielle stepped forward. "You killed my mother." Myung-soo glanced at her, almost bored. She was a loose end, nothing personal. Something snapped inside Danielle, but she didn't scream, didn't cry. She smiled. "You made one mistake," she said quietly. Myung-soo frowned. "And what's that?" "You think I came alone." His eyes flickered with doubt. Behind him, the shadows moved. Jun Seo's loyal guards, the ones Danielle had called during the drive, stepped out of the darkness, weapons raised, surrounding Myung-soo's men. "It's over," Danielle said. "Your men know the truth now. They've seen the evidence. No one's following you after tonight." Myung-soo's face twisted with rage. For a moment, she thought he'd pulled the trigger anyway. But instead, he turned the gun toward himself. "I won't live as a prisoner." The shot echoed through the mansion. And then, silence. Aftermath. Mrs. Han was safe. Shaken, but alive. Junseo's wounds were minor. His pride hurt more than his body. Vincent Cole agreed to return the stolen money in exchange for witness protection. He'd disappear again, but this time alive. Before he left, he found Danielle in the garden. "I don't expect forgiveness," he said quietly, "but I want you to know your mother was the best thing that ever happened to me. And so were you." Danielle didn't respond, but she didn't walk away either. 6 months later, Danielle sat in a classroom at Chicago State University, nursing textbooks spread across her desk. Full scholarship, funded by the Hahn Foundation. Marcus was thriving, top of his class, already talking about law school. And once a week, Mrs. Hahn visited the diner where everything began. Danielle always poured her tea. No charge. Junseo waited outside in the black sedan. Their relationship was undefined, complicated, but growing. One rainy evening, Danielle looked out the window at the storm that had started it all. She wasn't the same woman who walked past strangers. She was someone who learned what her mother always knew. Kindness isn't weakness. It's the most dangerous thing you can offer because it reveals who people really are. Some will use your heart against you, but the ones worth keeping will protect it with their own. Her mother showed kindness to a man who destroyed her, but she also showed it to Danielle, and that kindness became her armor. She started as a waitress who couldn't afford to care. She ended as the woman who brought a mafia empire to its knees, with nothing but the truth and a heart she refused to let the world harden. And somewhere out there, in the rain that never stopped falling, Han Jun-seo was still watching, still waiting, still wondering what she'd do next. Because Danielle Brooks was done being bait. Now, she was the one setting traps. If this story moved you, hit subscribe and join the Tales by Wave family. Share this with someone who needs to hear that kindness is power, and comment the life lesson that hit you hardest. New story drops soon, and trust me, you don't want to miss it.